Sorry guys, I had no instrument to play, so I had to make up my own. So quick video, they're all quick videos because really shorter is better that you can take notes on and watch over and over if you need to. Distribution, algebra. A few of you guys are still struggling with this concept, so I'm going to take a slightly different approach in this video. What I want you to really start to realize is that algebra is about pattern recognition. We keep on working the numbers until we start to see certain patterns arise in the numbers. What you're looking at right now are the two biggest ones you need to recognize. Now remember, all the letters, those are letters, all the letters just represent any number. They could be positive, they could be negative. And remember, if I have ax, that could also be x divided by a, right? That's the division component of multiplication. This could be x divided by c minus d. Okay, the thing is that here we have x's on both sides. Once we get to this point, our first step is done. The simplifying is going to be the longest and most tedious part of all algebra problems. So just get used to that. You don't do anything different until you see ax plus a number, a coefficient. Remember, a coefficient, which is a number attached to x, and a constant. And a constant. A constant is just a number with a sign that has no variable. There we go. See if I can keep this thing in focus. So once we have this first pattern, then we can start going across the equal sign. This last one is the key for when you move forward in terms of how you isolate for x. Okay, so I have a problem and lined paper. Isn't that weird? I don't know why. Anyway, it's all I could find. So here we have a fairly typical grade 9 algebra problem. When we look at this, we do not have we have a bx plus c minus d e. We have way too many numbers here. And really, I've got some with x, some without. Whenever I have brackets, what do I need to do? What law do I need to use? Yes, I want you to say it. Distributive law, which states that if I have a number outside of a bracket, I need to multiply that constant by every term within the bracket. Now remember, terms are really cool things. They're the building blocks of all of our algebra. Okay, it's a number with a sign and a variable combination. Now in here we've got a lot of them, but watch, we can do this. You guys are smart. We can handle this. So if you don't understand this, right now you can't solve this yet. We have a lot of work to do to simplify. So here we go. We're going to multiply 2 by each of these terms. So 2 times 3 gives me 6x. 2 times positive 4 gives me positive 8. Notice how I'm putting in my signs. I even like to do that. Negative 4 times 3x. Negative 4 times positive 3 is going to give me negative 12x. No more brackets. We're getting closer. Negative 4 times positive 6. Negative times a positive is going to give me negative 24. Now, I'm still not at that pattern we talked about. So let's simplify the other side. 2 times 1 is 2 with the x. Some of you, I won't use names, don't forget to write down the x. 2 times negative 12, it's a positive times a negative, it's going to give me negative 24. Do I have this form yet? 1x, 1 constant, 1x, 1 constant. Let's see. No, I don't yet, do I? So let's start looking. We are going to collect like terms on the same side of the equal sign. If it helps for you to remember, you can put a wall there. We are not going to move anything back and forth yet until we simplify. Now, you can actually do it, but it makes things a lot more complicated. So trust me on this one. As you get up to higher levels of algebra, this is a really important step. Okay? So now we collect like terms. I've got a positive 6x, that's my coefficient, and a negative 12x. All those rules come back to you. Well, this is going to be negative 6x. Those two combine to make negative 6x. I have 8 and negative 24. Oh, well, what is that? It's going to be, oh, hopefully I get this right so no one gets free homework. 4 minus 16, negative 16. I'm confident with that. Equals 2x minus 24. I don't have anything to combine there. Aha! Let's see. ax plus b equals cx plus d. Negative 6 is my a. Negative 16 is my b. 2 is my c. Negative 24 is my d. Hooray! We got it. Now, here there are two ways to think about it. And I'm going to show you both. It may confuse you, but you need to know. I need to get these x's to one side. That's the next step on your little cheat sheet. I have to get the x's to one side. So you always want to take the smallest x. Otherwise you have to deal with negative numbers and it's not so much fun. So if we want to take this whole term and move it to the other side, at this stage we are now moving between the equal sign. So this is where the rule change sides, change signs comes into play. The reason we can do that is really what I have is I have negative 6, let's call it apples. So I have negative 6 apples. The opposite of negative 6 apples is positive 6 apples. What I do to one side, I now have to do to the other side. So I've added it here and I've added it there. For those of you who prefer, this is the same thing. Do you see how this is positive 6x? That's change side, change the sign. My negative has to become a positive. Okay? Now these equal 0. If I have negative 6 apples and I add 6, I get 0. No x's on that side. I still have negative 16. Well, 2x and 6x gives me 8x, and I keep my coefficient. My constant. Now, look. What do you notice? I'm looking for a constant and a coefficient equals a constant. So ax plus b equals c. Now this one looks a little different. I have ax plus b equals c. It's just the opposite side. It's still the same thing. Well, that's all right, because now I'm down to the last two steps. I have to get x alone, right? We always leave the a till the last. It's attached by a multiplication, hardest thing to break. Okay, we want to leave that till the very end. So I need to get rid of my constant, right? It's the easiest thing to get away from the x, just like we did here. I'm going to take a positive 24 to both sides. Negative 24 and positive, that equals 0. I'm going to bring my 8x down. Does that look familiar? Just like order of ops. Now if I have 24 and I take away 16, I'm going to do this so just to make sure. That gives me 1, 1, 6, 8. Okay, I don't want to have to give free homework to anyone. This is going to be 8. So 8 equals 8x. Look at that, we are one step away. See that little x? I have to get the 8 away from the x. By the way, you could also change sign, change side on that one as well. Okay, it's the faster way to do it. Now, with that 8, you got to say to yourself, how is that 8 attached to the x? It is attached by a multiplication. We want to end up with something that says x equals. The way I break it is I use the opposite operation. In this case, division. So 8 divided by 8, that gives me 1. There's my 1x. Well, look over here. 8 divided by 8, this one's pretty easy. That equals 1. X equals 1. Now, what does that actually mean? What this is telling us is that if I now take the 1 and everywhere I have x, I put in the number 1. I challenge you to do this. Do this. Write this whole thing. Go 2 bracket 3 times 1 plus 4. And here 3 times 1 plus 6 equals 2. 1 times 1 minus 12. See if you get the right, see if they equal. They should equal the same thing. Okay, so guys, the steps. Number 1. Simplify. Hold on. Perfect. Simplify to the form. See if you remember. What's the first form that we want to look for? ax plus b equals cx plus d. Notice x's on both sides. Not every problem is going to be like this. Okay? Many problems are just going to have x's on one side to start with. Okay? But if you can do the whole sequence, then you're fine. Number 2, x's to one side. So I'm going to do one thing here. Plus 4 equals 6x minus 3. For some of you, I showed a nice little cheat. It's not a cheat, it's just a different way to do it. Take the smaller one. Because what? If I take 6 and I subtract, now I have to deal with negative numbers. I don't want to deal with negative numbers if I don't have to. So we can either minus or do the opposite operation to what this is for the whole term. Or you can do this one. Change sign, minus 2x. Now, the big thing is you got to cancel that out. Now, what do you notice? Now I get ax minus b minus cx equals d. That's not the right form. We have to combine like terms again. But that's okay, because that's an easy step. 6 minus 2 gives me 4x minus 3. ax plus b equals c. Come on and focus. Focus, focus. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so if you do the change side, change sign, you need to collect those x's again before you move on. Once I have this, we are looking for the form ax plus b equals c. Oh, look at that. I'm already there. Which is easier to get rid of? An add or subtract or a multiply? You're always going to take the constant. Number 3 is move constant. And it will always be either a positive or a negative. Remember, what I do to one side, I do to the other. Number 4, get rid of the coefficient. Move coefficient. Now, it's always, a coefficient is always attached by either a multiply or a divide. If I have x divided by 4, to get rid of it, I'm going to multiply it by 4. What I do to one side, I do to the other. Now, the last thing, and this is a fine little point, those of you in grade 9, don't forget to do this. Write x on left side. So if I end up with 4 equals x, you just flip it around. X equals 4. That's mathematical convention. You got to follow it. Hope this helps. Bring any questions you have next week and get as far as you can on that algebra challenge. You've got to try it before you can fail. I want you to get to the point where you understand where you're making mistakes. Biggest thing, simplify using distribution, collecting constants and coefficients until you have one x and one constant, one x and one constant on each side. See you guys next week.